Hi, everybody. You know me. My name is Casey Lipka. I'm a vocalist and bassist, collaborative person, bringing people together to talk about creativity. And I'm so excited to welcome our guest, Austin Antoine. He's a performance artist that blends poetry, music, and theatrics. He's a rapper, community maker, and essentially, he's a standalone art enterprise. In 2013, Austin set the Guinness World Record for longest freestyle rap by freestyling for an unprecedented 16 hours. I'm definitely going to ask him about this later. You'll find him touring his music pre and post COVID, working with hip hop legends, and acting in a film that got into Sundance Film Festival. His music reflects his truth, and I can attest to the truth and authenticity he has in his music. His latest EP, The Rest is History, is now available on all streaming platforms, and I'll put that link up for everyone later. On a personal note, some favorite songs of mine of his are Don't Let Me Fall, with lyrics like, is this real life or is this a dream? And then another song of his that I heard a couple years ago, but he sent to me recently called Don't Forget to Dream. I'd like to welcome Austin. Hi.
Hey, what's up, Casey?
Hi. So nice to see you. Thank you for being here and talking about creativity.
Of course, thanks for having me. This is a dope platform, and I appreciate you letting me come by and kick it with you, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. What is life looking like? What's music life looking like for you in quarantine?
Music life for me is looking like in the creative process, there's a space that you can end up getting into where it's a lot of try and then ball up and throw away and then try again and then ball up and throw away. I'm in the sketching phases of making a bigger picture. So right now there's a lot of digesting, there's a lot of workshopping and uh, open micing, if that still exists in a quarantine world. I'm trying out a lot of new stuff so that I can be adjusted as a performer in a post-COVID existence.
Mm. So
Yeah.
So you're saying sketching and trying new things out. What does
Yeah.
that mean? You're sort of reformulating yourself as an artist? What do you mean by that?
I think so. So there's a couple of things. So in general, I've uh, been a very curious creator. So enjoyed uh, I've enjoyed freestyling. So I practiced a lot at freestyling and got very comfortable at that. Then that turned into songwriting. And I did that a lot, got comfortable with that. And that turned into singing while songwriting. And in fact, and so now it's just adding more and more layers. And now the newest layer to get added is doing all of these things, but on the digital realm. What does that look like? Where does that live? Where does that live with me in a creative versus how do I convey what I've learned to an audience, to my support base? So it's a lot of walking right now so that I can get comfortable enough to the sprint that I'm at with all my other artistic abilities.
Oh, I love what you're saying about that your process as an artist has been, oh, I started with this, I started with freestyling, and that then turned into my music. And it sounds like your process as an artist overall in the arc of your career thus far is,
Mm-hmm.
slowly scaffolding and adding on new things. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah. It's getting dressed. It's start with the underwear, then you throw on the pants, then the shirt and the socks and the shoes, and eventually you're a fully dressed artist that everyone's that, oh, I like your attire. It's like, thanks. It took some time to get all this stuff together, but I appreciate. Well, I don't think getting dressed is as hard as I made that sound, but yeah, in that realm.
Oh, I love that. You too, if you want to be an artist, just think about dressing yourself, and that's exactly how music is.
That's
Being a musical
that's
artist.
it. I actually was just teaching my niece. So I have nieces and nephew, and I'm starting to see musical interest in my nieces. One has a natural ear, and another one has a visual connection where it's needing to see and really make it tangible and understand. So with one of them, I was just like, hey, here's a keyboard. Here's the C note. If you press C, and I ran through the C major scale, and was like, if you can go through this scale, then you'll be comfortable enough to pick a lot of different things out by ear, because that's how I figured out how to digest music. I'm not the type of person that reads music, or I don't even look at the sheet music. But if you tell me what like a root note is, and you're like, and this is the chord that we're playing around in, then I could eventually tinker something out. So one of my nieces has that, caught on immediately with that ability. And the other one, I had to show, like, here, when playing, you can play all of the white notes and playing on the C major scale, and then that will work. And once she saw it and had the visual association, it worked out. And I don't know, I think just about the whole getting dressed thing, it's cool to see them developing their process and be like, oh, I was definitely there. And I didn't know that I even retained this basis until I was able to share this conversation with someone else.
I like what you're saying about getting dressed, because I think that that's approachable for anybody. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is how to make creativity and the idea of creation accessible.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what does your creative process look like?
Ooh, okay. Yes, my creative process is it's a lot of backwards. It's backwards building. I don't know what it's called. Reverse engineering, I guess, where feeling comes up first. Feeling, or happiness, sadness, something like that gets felt, and it's like, oh, how do I convey that? Okay, well, if I had a beat and a message and a certain chorus or a certain ditty that goes along with what this feeling is, and hopefully I can convey the feeling that I have. Let me try to explain this feeling as best possible. And then the explaining of the feeling ends up turning into a chorus. That chorus ends up turning into a verse, and then an entire song. So I guess it just starts with the feels, whatever's going on in my heart, and then conveying that best. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And we were talking a couple weeks ago on the phone, and something that I remember from that conversation is you were talking about freestyling, and that the idea in and of itself is expanding and stretching out one idea as much as you can. Where, we were talking about the differences between freestyling and composing lyrics, and kind of talking about how to maybe blend some of those worlds, which they're very much connected, but there are similarities and differences. So tell us about freestyling and how to expand an idea and possibly use that to influence some lyrical content. That's a big question.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's perfect. I'm down. So yeah, we had an amazing conversation in general, but that was a huge point that came up. I think the difference between freestyling, vocally, jamming wise, or anything like that, is seeing how long you can play around with the expression. Whereas with songwriting, I feel like the word is personify or something, but it's honing in on the very specific goal, a very specific message, very specific repetition, something along those lines. So with freestyling, what I really enjoy is getting the freedom to play around for as long as I have the energy to, for as long as I have the brain capacity to, and sometimes pushing beyond that. I associate the process with Did you ever see those old cartoon commercials where they had like uh, Goofy or Tom and Jerry, where Tom is sleepwalking and you just see him legs walking, over and over to a random space, and he's getting ready to walk off of a cliff, and then it's like, oh snap! How can you take this next step? As soon as you take the next step, you're gonna fall off the cliff, and then a beam comes up because it's actually him walking closer to a construction site, and he's allotted like 30 more seconds to walk, and then the process continues. I think the same goes for freestyling, where rather than trying to control where the moment is going, you're allowing yourself to almost sleepwalk with where your mind's at and trusting that it's going to lead you to the next space. Because we always have enough, we have more than enough to say and more than enough going on in our minds. And even if we don't have anything going on, and it's expanding on the idea of, oh man, I don't have anything I'm thinking about right now, but I'm still going to let the words fall out of my mouth. Like it's still, you can still keep sleepwalking. You'll eventually find your way to another platform of thought.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. That it really snowballs into something that you don't know what to expect. You feel like you don't know what's going to happen, and then something happens.
Yeah, it's the brilliance of the unsure. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's about to come out of it, and that's the most exciting part of it. Versus writing a song and saying, I know it's about to come out of it because I already know what the intention of this piece is. Freestyling is intentionless. The only intention you have is to exist and make discoveries in the moment. You're not trying to be good, you're trying to make discoveries.
Ooh.
Whereas songwriting, I imagine, is you're taking all the discoveries that you've had and making a really good mission statement out of all the things that you've built up, the other things that you've been processing.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about when quarantine started,
Mm-hmm.
I started a small songwriting group, and we meet every day and for half an hour, and I bring some music writing prompts. And so I've been writing a snippet a day for 3 months now. And I'm thinking about what you're saying and the idea of you don't know what's going to happen. And some days I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm singing and I'm playing bass and something's coming out, but this isn't really anything. And then, part of me can part of me can definitely criticize myself, but
Mm-hmm.
every single time I reach that place and then I move past it,
Mm-hmm.
letting it be whatever it's going to be, the idea, staying on it and elaborating on it and seeing how much I can discover. I like that word, discover.
Mm-hmm.
It always turns into something.
Yeah. Yeah. So for real. So I think there's such a fascination for people to want to come out the gate with aha moment, where it's like, this is immediate brilliance. That's how this works. And it's like, no, I think big aha moment happens when you tinker around and you play around and you try different things out, and then you look back on. That's one of my favorite things to do, is do a random freestyle with friends, or like have a jam happen or something, and then record it and listen back to it, not for the sake of it being like, we just made the most brilliant thing ever, but to go listen back and see those moments of synchronicity and harmony that happen, because we're all so loose and just trying. We're just trying, And that those discoveries, I think, are far more fulfilling than the occasional aha moment where you wake up and I have to grab my pen because the idea, this is the best thing ever,
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so many questions that are bubbling up from what we're talking about. One
You're right.
observation, I think, is that you're saying that freestyling is the act of getting all of the ideas out, and then later on, you go back and you say, oh, okay, what do I like of this? I'm sort of carving away. I put everything down on paper, so to speak, and now I'm going back to see what it is that captured my attention to possibly elaborate on more. Is that what you're saying?
Loosely, yes, because that's the process of learning. I was talking about making a drawing and sketching, tossing, throw it away, sketching, tossing, throw it away. It is that it's building up that muscle, that comfortability, and then eventually what starts off as freestyle, where it's very vague thought. Now the vague thoughts get slightly more polished, and eventually you have really tight, concise moments that you wouldn't have known you had if you hadn't consistently built up this your process that you're talking about, the song simple snippets a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's comforting in so many ways to hear you put it like that, because it makes the creative process sound easy, not daunting. It's easy. You start with something, then you come back, revise it, redo it, look at it a different way, discover something else, throw some other ideas down. Yeah, I like that. It makes it sound easy.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that could make the creative process appear daunting, because you see the comparison. You compare yourself to somebody that you really appreciate, or you've wanted to sculpt your abilities after, or you'll hear yourself back, and then yourself to your ear isn't what you want yourself to sound like off of the bat. And it's like, that's fine. What is it about yourself today what is it about yourself today that works? Build off of that and continue to build off of that. And then there's far more that we're able to retain than we give ourselves credit for. Like I was mentioning my nieces, and the main thing that was cool about it is one could see the other's process and then think, oh, I'm off. I don't know how to do this thing, until you realize, oh, this is actually working for me. So let me continue to do. And then it becomes fun for both, because everybody has their own creative path.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many things that you're saying are resonating with me, because yes, not comparing yourself, trusting your process, owning your strengths.
Word. Yeah.
Yeah, those are so beautiful. So, okay, I have to ask you about the freestyling Guinness World Record, where you
Yes.
were freestyling for 16 hours. How did
Yes, it was the third how that got me. The first two were like, oh, that was no. So I've been freestyling for quite some time now, and it's always been more of a recreational thing than anything. It was my way of having fun in idle time at college, or when I was in high school, like hanging out with friends. That would be something would happen, and then it would be like, oh man, let's do a rap recap almost of really dope things that happened as we were hanging out. So that ability was there. And, I was doing performances at my college with the help of a really dope friend of mine. He was putting on events, and I would make songs and then workshop them at the events and perform them. And some were good, some were meh. But what would always be the saving grace is if the songs weren't good, I'd still be able to freestyle at the parties, and then everybody would, oh man, he said he's got shoes and I got shoes too. That's unreal. He made it relatable to me. So it ended up becoming a real fun way of connecting and engaging with my peer group at college and stuff. So anyway, time passes, get ready to go into my last year of college, go through a breakup, and the breakup hit hard. And it was like, oh man, this is a downer. And what are my options right now? I could either wallow and sit and be upset and, concentrate and fixate on this, or I can do something productive to get me out of my funk. Well, I do thoroughly enjoy freestyling, and it's something that I feel pretty confident with. And my friend's been putting on these events, so if he helps me facilitate a space where I can just purge my brain for as long as I can, then maybe it can turn into a great time and a great detox of whatever's going on. So we did a practice round for 3 hours. That was difficult. Did another practice round for 6 hours. That was manageable. Did a practice round for 9 hours. That was fun and very inclusive, and it turned into more of a block party than it turned into anything else. And then by the time we went for the actual event, the goal was to go beyond 12 hours. And it was at that point, it was almost like a meditative state, the way that my mind was moving and talking about things. And by the time I got to the record breaking mark, everybody's like, yeah, you did it. And I'm like, yeah, but I still got it. My mind is still fixated on rhymes and getting the thoughts out. But the overall purpose of it was to see how much I can expel from my mind with the art form that I love doing. And it turned out great. And it was dope to have so many friends help me out in the process as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't fathom that, honestly.
It's not as difficult as you would once you get that Tom and Jerry method in the back of your mind, where it's like there's no way that I trust myself to make dope discoveries in the process, and I forgive myself if I say something that's dumb along the way. So as long as I go in with those two understandings, and I'm in a good supportive space, then I'm chilling. I can freestyle for however long. And it made it really dope too, because I was able to, we did things like we took audience suggestions. We asked people to write down questions for me. Hey, talk about the first movie you ever watched. Can you rap in iambic pentameter? List your favorite rappers in reverse order. Imitate somebody's style or something. And it would be like real dope, engaging things. Because not only am I rapping, but I'm also like trying to construct these thoughts based on the prompts given. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. So I'm curious to know what did you learn from doing that?
Yeah, that I think that a massive artistic message, what's it called? A massive artistic endeavor is a means to an end, but isn't a solution particularly. Because so the goal, because the goal was to it was after a breakup, the whole thing was, if I do this, then by the time I get to the end, I'm gonna feel like Rocky when he ran up the stairs. Like, I did it, and all the problems are solved. And it's like, nope, life does eventually go back to normal. I still do got to work on self-development. I still got it. So that was a really dope moment of making that realization. And another thing too is enjoying the process, because the process is far more fulfilling than fixating on the end result. That process was so amazing. And the things that I learned and the resilience that I learned and the discipline that I got through that process, that was it. To this, up until this point, I know I still have the ability to freestyle as long as I have energy to expel. I also now know that that same energy could be vacuum packed into a piece. That could be vacuum packed into a project. That could be put into a collaboration. It also could be expelled from not even having a freestyle. Maybe it's making a really, really, really dope picture, or it's I got a better understanding of how art can be used to express what's internally happening. Yeah. Feel like I'm rambling about the process, but I really did enjoy the interconnectivity of being in a flow state.
I'm so interested in what you're saying. I don't think you're rambling at all. I think that you're elaborating on the process and what it looks like and things that you've learned. And I love hearing about that.
Cool.
Where can people find your music?
Oh, you can find my music on all streaming services. I am on, Apple Music, Spotify, all of that, SoundCloud even. It pops up on YouTube. I'm featured on a lot of work too. Some of our mutual friends have me on some of their work, so you can find me on other groups is like Jumanji, like JOOMANJI. You can find me on a collaborative project with Slim Kid Trey from The Far Side and DJ Newmark from Jurassic 5. That's called Trademark, TRDMRK. Yeah, you can find it on all facets. So just feel free to Google Austin Antoine. I'm sure you're going to enjoy whatever it is that you find.
Yep, and his website is right here, austintheantoine.com. And if you'd like to find out more information about me and my music, you can go to caseylipka.com. And I've also compiled some creative tips at caseylipka.com/51 tips if you're interested in getting some creative tips to kickstart some ideas there. Yeah, so we have a question from Joe Kai, which is, what's your go-to pre-creative activity? And before you answer that, Austin, if anyone has questions who's here, please feel free to put them in the comments. So yeah, what's your go-to pre-creative activity?
Go-to pre-creative activity. One of three things, I'd say. Sorry, I had a coffee burp. One of three things. One is actually coffee and art digestion. So I'll drink some coffee and like scroll through bizarre or dope images. Like there was a website, Stumble Upon, that I don't know, it doesn't exist anymore, but I would find things like that. We're looking at different abstract art or listen to songs from people that I'm motivated by, and then get that excitement going of the creative process. And that's something that gets it started. Another thing is stimulating conversation. I'll have to call somebody and just talk, and just we gotta have a ping pong conversation of like when we spoke last week. As soon as I'm able to go beyond pleasantries with someone and actually delve into like what the underlying theme is of that conversation, be it current things, be it what's happening in the world, be it what's happening within me or with another person, or things that I'm just trying to understand. I'm able to get that through conversation. Joe Kai and I had a conversation for about an hour and a half about everything going on currently with Black Lives Matter and injustices. And when talking about like our purposes and how we're able to contribute and make everything reflective of how we feel, I felt far more compelled to create after that than I did from looking at anything on the news or from looking at anything happening through social media. So those conversations are very, very therapeutic. And the last thing is exercise. Either exercise in the form of literally going out jogging, jumping jacks, jump rope, or something like that, or sometimes exercising my liver and having a bit to drink, and then just chilling out and being like, all right, this is going to be what I'm sitting down and focused on, and listening to this beat for hours on end, and freestyling and getting into a rhythm, getting into emotion, and then getting comfortable and loose enough. That's the thing, the looseness. So it just finding that looseness to get comfortable and expand until I can refine and make the piece to piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, I think about that my mind has to be calm in a certain way. Mm-hmm. My mind has to not be distracted by other things to really go into that creative space. And sometimes the act of going into the creative space quiets that, but mm-hmm. definitely going for a walk, like you're saying, exercise, that definitely helps me. And reading, I don't know, sounds counterintuitive, but reading really focuses my mind and is something that I love immensely. Yeah. And so reading a book is helpful for me before I do before I do
Yeah.
anything because I have to concentrate. I have to zone in and be in the moment.
Yeah. I think that's something that's massive is presence, comfortability in presence. It's in a lot of outlets. It's freestyling, jam session, um, the runner's high, all those things. I think it's all described as, I don't know, I gave it air quotations. It just is what it is. But yeah, it's a thing that I've heard frequently described as a flow state. And that's what I'm fascinated by that. Because if I can get that comfortable in the present moment to know that everything is going to it's going to move right because it's the moment. And that's what it, yeah, enjoying that I think is the real sweet spot of creativity. And I think to get there, it's facilitating everything around it so that when it happens, and when it doesn't, you're just having fun and making discoveries in the process.
Are there any similarities of times that you have? Okay, so there are times that you've reached that state. Do you notice any similarities in the times that you've reached that state?
Check, check, check.
Oh,
I feel like I'm back.
you are back.
Okay, cool. I think I'm officially back. All right. So you said, are there any similarities for times when I what?
So when you've reached this flow state, do you recognize any similarities in the times that you've made it there?
Yes. The flow state feels like romance. It feels like holding hands with the person that you have a crush on. It feels like the excitement before getting on the roller coaster. It feels like, it feels like that moment when you're on stage performing in front of people and you have that, not that moment when you're performing. It's the before performing. It's the moment when performing where you know that you've practiced hot cross buns for the recital enough that when you get in front of that piano and play, you know you're just going to do it. So it's an undoubted presence. It's an undoubtable presence where you're so in that moment that there could literally be everything else happening around you in that moment. But there could be fireworks happening, and the fireworks are just background noise because the thing that's immediately in your presence is what's holding precedent.
I love that. I don't even know how to respond to that because so much yes.
You can make a shirt out of that. So much yes, Casey Lipka.
Thank you for that. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you wish you would have known when you were just starting out as a creative person, as an artist?
What I wish I would have known, and what I'm still trying to. What's the correction of trying to? I'm not trying to. I'm in the process of doing. What I wish I would have known, and what I'm in the process of doing, is accepting that my path is my own, and the abilities that I have today are amazing because they're my abilities, and they've come together as the perfect amalgam of what makes Austin Antoine today. Because when I started out, I loved freestyling and doing things, but it wasn't like what I saw being done by people I appreciated, or even as simple as when I was in high school in Maryland, I was able to freestyle rap. And then I saw other people that could freestyle rap, but they had a different bite to their style. And so I was like, oh, I guess I got a lot of work to do, not realizing that there was already a circle of people that were appreciating everything that I was bringing to the table. And so if I could have incorporated anything then, and what I'm incorporating today as well, is I'm already doing it right because I'm me. and that's the rightest I can be. Simply put.
Yeah. Is that a lyric that you have in one of your songs? Because it needs to be.
I need to write that down.
Yeah. Well, here you have this recorded. I'm me and I'm the rightest I can be.
Oof, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely this conversation, it's reminding me to sit in your strength, or to sit in one's strength, and recognize what somebody is already good at, and living into that. I think that is so validating and reassuring and lovely.
Yeah, sit in your strength. Yes, I'm me, and that's the rightest I can be.
Yeah. We'll have to do something with that.
Yeah, we're gonna just need bullet points of quotes to take away.
Yeah, totally. Well, is there anything else that you want to add, that you want people to know about you?
Yes. If you are intrigued in anything that I'm doing, feel free to check out my website, Austin the Antoine. Check out my Instagram at Austin the Antoine, and stay tuned for some awesome performances, because I do perform once a week through this awesome outlet called Butcherbird Studios that has been facilitating a weekly show where it's a house party where we perform. It's not even just a performance. We relax into ourselves and we find a space of rejuvenation during quarantine, during everything that's going on in the world, during turning on the news and figuring out the next thing that's going to make your day feel like the world's upside down. It's a space of rejuvenation, recharging, so you can go back out and feel good to approach the next day. So check out Butcherbird for that weekly show. And aside from that, yeah, thank y'all, anyone that is connecting or has connected with anything that I've said. And thank you for bringing me to this platform, Casey. It's been a dope time.
Yeah, always such a pleasure to spend time with you. And I put your website up there. You can, if you're interested in finding out more about Austin, you can go to his Instagram, and that has the link for the page that he's talking about for his weekly show. When do you usually do that? What day of the week, Austin? Or does it change?
We do it. No, it's Wednesdays. Every Wednesday at 7:00 Eastern, 7:00 Pacific time. So that's West Coast, and then 10:00 Eastern.
Got it.
And yes, great guests, great performances, great segments, and it's a great place to be.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. He calls it Austin, or house party, right?
Yes, currently Austin Antoine's house party. A change is underway, but it's going to be for the better, and I'm excited for making that grand announcement.
Ooh, exciting. As artists, you're always growing and changing and adapting, especially in this time of what we're living in right now, in COVID times, quarantine. And I'm sure it sounds like you're reinventing yourself in more ways than one.
That is a perfect way of putting it. Yes. I think I'm excited for what is to come, because in the process you could it gets very easy, not easy, it gets very reassuring when you're able to do what you've always done so that you can maintain a space. But if the growth is to happen, then an uncomfortable process has to occur, and a level of cocooning, a level of testing limits, and then going beyond all of that. So I'm essentially in the dojo, and I'm excited to debut my new style.
Yeah. LJ is here. Hi, LJ. And she said, I needed that today. Sit in my strength. Yes. Yes. I think we all need that. We all need to be reminded. Yeah. We all need to be reminded of that by our own self. And also it's helpful when other people, uplift you uplift each other
Yeah.
in community. I think that we have that in common, Austin. Community gatherers, bringing people together. And Clark says, for sure, for real, and stay creative no matter what. Yes, yes. Thank you both for joining us here. And, thinking about supporting one another, Austin and I are in this group called Collective Mind. It's a
Yes.
group of music entrepreneurs that we support each other, create an empowered network, and keep each other accountable for our dreams, because that's important. So I don't know if anybody is interested in that who is listening or hears this at some point. Please feel free to reach out to me. Love to hear more about what you're doing and how I can support you, or maybe Austin can support you. Find somebody who, there's always somebody. We can link people together.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's always somebody.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. Again, one last time, I want to put your information up here. You can find Austin at austintheantoine.com. You can find me at caseylipka.com. And if you're interested in some creative tips to kind of kickstart your creativity and your process, you can go to caseylipka.com/51 tips. And yeah, Austin, thank you so much.
Of course. It was so much fun to come and hang out.
So much fun. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. I will see you next week, next Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to interview my friend Akil. He writes music for Pokemon, or he arranges and composes music for the show Pokemon. And he's going to be talking about all about his creative process and music making. So I'm excited to talk to him and introduce you all to him. Anyway, all right. Have a wonderful day. And thank you so much, everybody. Bye.